Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on Cinco de Mayo, Sunday, May 5th, 2019, episode 1589. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Carbonite, the premier data protection platform for business with customizable cloud and hybrid backup for your servers. To learn more, visit carbonite.com. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here. It's Tech Guy time. Yes, indeed. The show where we talk about all that, technology stuff. You know what I'm talking about. You know, all the computers and the internet and home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, that kind of thing. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. Anything with a chip in it, we could talk about it. Your questions, your suggestions, your commentary, 888-827-5536. That's toll free from the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you could still use Skype or something like that. If you can call a phone number from it, it's a toll-free number. Shouldn't cost you anything. 8888 Ask Leo. The website, techguylabs.com. That's where we put everything in the show, so you don't have to write anything down. We put it all up at techguylabs.com, and that's free. There's no charge to use it. There's no sign-up. It's just there for your benefit. techguylabs.com. Let's see what's going on in the world around us. I like to check in at the beginning of the show just to see if anything has changed. FTC is trying to decide right now whether, we think they're going to issue a big fine to Facebook. Facebook last week in its quarterly results said, we're putting aside some money. We got a little cookie jar in the kitchen. We're putting some cash in there because we think we're going to get a fine from the FTC. So we're just going to put a little $3 billion more or less. We just put that in the cookie jar, and maybe the fine will be as much as $5, but just in case, we're putting aside $3. That's a pretty big fine. Although some have made the case that since it's only a fraction of Facebook's profits for the last quarter, that maybe they should fine them a little more just to make it really sting. But the debate at the FTC, and I'm curious what you think of this, is whether the next time they should hold Mark Zuckerberg personally responsible. It's one thing to, charge a corporation. Another thing entirely to say, hey, Mark, you could give us $1 billion too. I mean, he's got a lot of money, but that might hurt a little harder. Real debate over that. I don't know. What do you think? Is Mark Zuckerberg liable for what Facebook does? He is, just some background information, one of the few tech founders who still retains control of his company, more than half the voting stock. It's his show. He's the, as they say, benevolent dictator for life at Facebook. I don't know. I guess if you really wanted Facebook to change its tune, you might start to hold Mark Zuckerberg liable. Verizon. Remember Verizon? Well, of course, you know Verizon. Remember how they bought Yahoo? And along with it, when they got Yahoo, they got Tumblr, which was, one of the early blogging sites. Tumblr was, I think, a really great product. It made it easy for anybody to have a website for free. It did, eventually become a haven for porno, people being people, such as they are. Verizon last year said, we're going to knock that off. And so they started, blocking and taking down all the adult content. At which point, apparently, Tumblr's visitors just plummeted. So now Verizon is looking for somebody, please, to buy it. And one of the potential buyers, an adult site called Pornhub, they said, we're going to put the adult back in Tumblr. We don't know if they'll get it, or even if Verizon will actually end up selling it, but it is on the market. They said, man, this isn't doing much for us. it's a shame. Yahoo has all this great stuff. Really did some amazing things, but Yahoo themselves, they couldn't figure out how to make it work. They had millions of views every day, and they couldn't figure out how to make it work. So eventually, they sold for pennies on the dollar. Now Verizon can't figure out how to make it work. Some of Yahoo, I have to say, got sold to responsible parties who I'm sure will turn them around. I'm very happy that Yahoo's Flickr site, which is their photo sharing site, Yahoo bought it, kind of let it just drift along. It never went down any bad roads or anything like Tumblr. It just drifted along. We used it. I love it. We use it for our photo guy when he shares pictures. When we have assignments, we always use Flickr for that. They got purchased last year by SmugMug for not very much money. And SmugMug, which is also a very good photo site, beloved by professional photographers, I think they're going to do a good job with it. They're going to keep that one alive. Be nice if maybe somebody like WordPress or Squarespace, some big blogging company bought Tumblr and kept it alive. Because, especially for the kids, it's a really nice, easy place to put your stuff. I really, I'd hate to lose it. I really would. It's kind of the bitter end for what remains of Yahoo. Hey, this was a shocker. On Friday, do you use Firefox as your browser? I am particularly, in fact, maybe we'll talk about this at some point, a fan. For a long time, I used Chrome. On Mac, I sometimes use Safari as your browser. Browser is really your most important app, isn't it, these days? On that and your email, on your computer, even on your phone, the browser is pretty darn important. I've been using a Chrome-based browser called Brave lately that I really like because it blocks. We were talking a couple of weeks ago, remember, somebody was wondering, well, how does Facebook know that I just went to a site about sheets? Because I get sheet ads on my Facebook. Well, because of that little Facebook bug at the bottom of the page that sends a signal back to Facebook. Hey, they're on the sheet site. Must be interested in sheets. Better put some sheet ads in. So Brave, among other things, has switches that you could turn off all that stuff for Twitter. They don't have a Twitter. There's no Tumblr switches. Twitter, Facebook, Google, and LinkedIn. You can just say no. If that site has buttons or like buttons or anything from those sites, just don't download it. Don't give them any indication of what I'm doing. Facebook, that we know, builds what they call shadow profiles of people, even non-Facebook users. So when you go to a site that has a little thumbs up, the like button, or you see a little Facebook login or anything, that site is actually, just in the nature of that button, most of the time sending the information about you and the site you're visiting back to Facebook. So even if you're not a Facebook member, Facebook can gather the information, build that shadow profile of you. So I use Brave, which doesn't do that. But to get back to this, for people who use Firefox, Friday was a weird day because all of a sudden, all the Firefox extensions stopped working. They just didn't work anymore. Everything, your password manager, your PDF reader, whatever extensions you had in Firefox, has stopped working. Turned out Firefox forgot to do something called renew a code signing certificate. It expired at 5 o'clock on Friday, midnight, May 4th, UTC. And after that expired, none of the extensions would work. So if you had some weirdness with your Firefox this weekend, Firefox has pushed out a fix. They did it yesterday in the standard desktop version, but some versions like Firefox for Android are not yet patched, will be getting patched. So that's why if your Firefox is acting wonky, that's what that's all about. These things happen. It's kind of weird. You kind of don't expect it, but they happen. So now you know. 8888 Ask Leo, TechGuyLabs.com. Kim Schaffer is here. She's answering the phone. She's ready for your calls. Give me a ring. Let's talk high tech. 8888 Ask Leo. That's my number. In this case, please wear it out. Give me a ring, and we will talk. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. The fix is, if you're on the desktop, download an updated version of Firefox. If you're on Android, someday there'll be an update. Someday soon, maybe even today, they're fixing it. It's not a hard fix, to be honest. They're also saying don't try any workarounds. Just wait. Use Chrome. Oh, now what's this? Windows 10. Confirmed has found updates to Windows 10 built-in Control Flow Guard security feature, which can cause massive performance issues for Chromium-based browsers like Chrome, Credge, Brave. Problem was first identified by Vivaldi, replicated by Google, after which Microsoft... Test? Chromium performance 3 to 4 times slower on average than on Windows 7. Oh, man. What? Turn off CFG, the Control Flow Guard. You probably shouldn't do that. This, my friends, is why I broke down and installed Linux on my new ThinkPad X1 Extreme. Just wiped Windows off completely. Just wiped it off. At least when Linux goes bad, you can say, well, it's open source. It didn't cost me anything. It's not spying on me. Jiminy Christmas. Jiminy Christmas. Holy moly. Holy guacamole. I actually love Linux. And I haven't found anything that I really can't do. Of course, it doesn't have Adobe programs, but there's good alternatives. It's a miracle! Every week at this time, the one and the only Kim Schaffer makes her appearance like Halley's Comet to shine over us all. Hello. Kimmy, don't take no Schaffer.
It's a miracle I can get through those narrows to get up here.
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
Yeah, so here up in we live in the wine country, Northern California, and it's all nice and pleasant as you're driving up from San Francisco until you get to what we call the Novato Narrows, where the road goes from 4 lanes to 2.
And there's been construction for the last 20 years.
They're trying to make it 4 lanes, but you know what happens when they do that? They mess it up for a couple of while.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're answering the phone.
Yes.
I'm glad you're sitting in front of that 700-watt AM transmitter for no reason.
I hope it's not on.
You're right next to it. You're right next to it. It's a set piece. It's decor.
Yeah.
It's 2 tons of decor.
Okay, so I also don't want an earthquake right now.
Well, it won't fall over. Here's the good news. All the weight's in the bottom.
Yeah, that's
In
true.
fact, if there is an earthquake, I'd jump inside. If the thing is built like a tank. It's a great little set piece. I got it from a guy named Mike Doro, who's a very famous radio guy and engineer, and builds the best meters, sound meters in the world, the Doro meters. And he goes around to old AM radio stations as they're decommissioning their transmitters. Mm-hmm. This one he got from a AM station in Sioux City. I think it was at Sioux Falls. Anyway, I think it's Sioux City, Iowa. And he got it, and they were putting it in the dump. And he said, well, if you don't want it, I'll take it.
Well, it's gorgeous.
Well, after Mike Doro gets a hold of it, he fixes it all.
Up.
It's like a classic car. He gets all the chrome, the paint, everything back to the original condition. And then because he's an amateur radio enthusiast, he tunes it to a frequency that you could use if you were a ham.
Oh, okay.
So that's on
So is it tuned to yours?
75-meter frequency. Yes, I could use that and be a ham operator. It'd be kind of a crazy thing, but I just think it looks cool.
It's very nice. It is like a brand new car.
Kim's in a part of our studio we call Radio Corner, which is funny because it's all Radio Corner. But that particular corner has an old that old transmitter, an old console right behind you. Yeah, that's the console I cut my teeth on in college radio in 1976. Yeah. Well, you're a little younger than me. And then all the ham equipment. So it's kind of fun that you're sitting there.
Yeah.
But nothing's transmitting, so you're safe.
Okay, good.
Have you answered any calls today?
Yeah. So Gordon in Long Island, it sounds like he's going to have a little bit of a hospital stay.
Oh,
and
dear.
He wants to make sure his internet activities are secure while he's there, like online banking and such.
Good question. Yeah. Okay.
Line 2.
Okay, line 2. Hello, Gordon. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thank you, Kimmy.
Hello, Leo. How are you, my friend?
I am well, my friend. Sorry about the hospital stay. I hope it's nothing too serious.
No, it's going to be for joint replacement, but you can be there for a period of time. And
Yeah.
Last time I was in there, I had some major concerns, and they weren't medical. And they were basically because my life is tied around the internet right now in order to provide me services to do my banking and a lot of other things.
Now, let me ask, did they have decent Wi-Fi in this hospital you're going to?
They have a Wi-Fi server in the hospital that we can hop aboard, but I want to make sure the security of my data and everything else is going to be there.
Quite reasonably.
Somebody has suggested to me that I get a VPN, and they have suggested private internet access. But because you are the end-all in my decision-making for what's good and what's not good, I wanted to consult you first.
So, do they, when you log onto the hospital Wi-Fi, do they have a password or is it just wide open?
It's wide open. You just log on to their Wi-Fi.
Okay. So that means anybody in the vicinity of the transmitter, which means not just in the hospital, but even on the grounds probably, can log in. So you're on a shared, what we call a shared network. Sometimes on Windows and other machines, you'll see it as categorized as a public network. And there are some risks being on a public network. Your banking is safe because, in fact, nowadays, almost every site you go to is safe because they're encrypted from your computer to the bank. So you notice when you go to the bank, you see the bank address begins with HTTPS.
Right.
Some browsers hide that, but that's the case. You may also see a locked padlock. That's one way. Depends on the browser. The browser will show you. And often you can even click on that padlock, and it'll say connection. In my case, it says to the bank, it says connection is secure. There is underneath that information about a certificate. That's the thing that secures it, and you want to make sure that that's valid. In fact, if you really want to be safe, you click that certificate and make sure that it's owned by the bank. So it's not owned by the hospital company or something, because it is possible for an internet service provider to perform what we call a man-in-the-middle attack, to give you a certificate that's theirs and then pass along your information to the bank. If they're doing that, then yes, you want a VPN. But if you can go, click the lock, see the certificate, it has your bank's name, it's got the identity properly, it's issued by, issued to, valid for the date and you're using it, then you're secure. It means that everything's encrypted, scrambled up, just as it would be with a VPN. But assuming that there are sites you go to, and sometimes we do. I mean, Facebook is encrypted, Amazon is encrypted, all the credit card and bank sites are encrypted. Pretty much everywhere you go. The main one you really want to make sure is encrypted is your email. Who do you use for email?
Well, it's a local cable company here, Optimum.
Okay. I'm sure Optimum is encrypted, but check to make sure you get that padlock with Optimum too. Because you don't want, the worst thing that can happen is somebody is your email password is passed through the Wi-Fi unencrypted, and then somebody gets that, because from then on they pretty much have access to everything. They can continue to log on to your email even after you leave the hospital. They can, until you change the password and so forth. But if all of that's encrypted, then you're pretty much safe. There are, and I've talked about this before, some little things a bad guy can do if you're sitting on a public network with the bad guy. A VPN would prevent that, but I think unless you're going to be going to insecure sites or you really want to be extra careful, you probably don't need to spend the money on a VPN. PIA is fine.
I'm going to be traveling in the future. Would that help me with a hotel or a motel situation?
I always have a VPN in my pocket when I travel. So that means, by the way, Optimum is secure. It uses a DigiCert, which is a very good company. So that's good news. Your Optimum email is secured. I go to a place called Tiny Hardware Firewall. They make little hardware routers that protect you on public Wi-Fi. First, because they're a router. So like any router, they're a firewall. But also because you can, if you want, turn on VPN. You can use the router. That gives you one level. Turn on the VPN another level. It even supports Tor. So these are kind of nice. Tiny Hardware Firewall. We also have a sponsor, Expressvpn, that makes a very good VPN. That's about $7 a month. So yeah, if you really want to be paranoid, a VPN is not a bad idea. In most cases, the kinds of things you're doing, you're perfectly safe. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Sam Abuelsamid, our car guy, coming up right after this. Yeah, now, the one thing you really want to pay attention to is this man-in-the-middle thing. So Dr. Mom in our chat room, who works in hospitals, she says it's very common for public Wi-Fi in hospitals to use man-in-the-middle to watch what you're doing to make sure you're not going to, pirate stuff or porn stuff and that kind of thing.
Right.
So this is a little more complicated, but one thing I would recommend you do, and you can do it at any site, you can do it at google.com because that's encrypted, is on the computer you're going to use with the browser you're going to use, once you get to the hospital or anywhere you want to check, click that lock, the padlock, and make sure that the certificate is issued to the bank or Google, whoever you're expecting it to be. If it's issued to the hospital or the hospital company, that means you're going through their certificate. Internet service providers have the ability to do this, and that means they see everything you're doing. And in that case, I would absolutely use a VPN.
And a VPN would then rule out the man-in-the-middle plus
Yes.
keystroke loggers?
Yes. Oh, no, not keystroke. Now, if you're really worried about keystroke loggers, that's another matter entirely. So that's software that's either on that software or hardware that's on your machine. Are you bringing your own machine?
Probably, or I might decide to use my tablet and use remote
That's fine.
PC or something like that.
Yeah, that's fine.
If there's any files I may need back at home.
Yep, that's fine. But so a keystroke logger would be malware that's installed on whatever device you're using. I don't know of anything like that for iOS, but certainly there's plenty of stuff for that for Windows. So if you have a malware infection in your machine, or it's even possible, and the reason I asked if you're bringing your own machine, if you use a public, it's really possible, a public terminal, because it's a simple thing to change, to modify the hardware even, put a little dongle in between the keyboard and the computer, and do keystroke logging. So, but a VPN will not protect you on that.
Okay. So
for that, you really have to make sure that you're using your own hardware and that it is not infected. And if you are using Windows,
yeah, I use Windows with a Chrome browser generally.
Yeah, I think just run the Windows Defender, do a scan. It'll capture any keystroke loggers in most cases, and certainly
I also have a managed antivirus too that I pay a subscription for.
Yeah, well, that should catch. The theory of that is it will catch keystroke loggers. The problem with antiviruses is they're about 50% effective.
Right.
And so that other 50% is always a big question mark, like, well, did I miss something? But I think you're probably all right. Somebody'd have to be going to put for you on your hardware to have a keystroke logger means somebody's targeting you, and most people are not being targeted. Most attacks are general.
I was thinking more about people who are lying around the hospital like me with maybe nothing to do that might have access to this.
I think you're probably all right, but if you see somebody in a hoodie on the bed next to you, yeah, maybe you're all right.
My wife to leave.
Yeah. Say, hey, honey, can you stop hacking me? No, you're people. It's reasonable to think about this, but most people are not attacked this way. 90% of the attacks now are just emails with bad links or links on a website that put malware on your system. And it's almost always ransomware. Nobody's trying to spy on your transactions.
Well, you've given me some good medicine now that will
good luck.
allow me to be a little more relaxed while I'm there.
Yeah, good luck. I hope it all goes well and you recover fast.
Well, thank you very much. My second time around, and just want to make sure I don't have to worry about my computer this time.
Some guy in a hoodie and sunglasses across from me. I'm worried now. Hey, good luck. Take care.
Thank you, Leo.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for being there for us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for listening. Here he is, breaking the speed of sound. Our car guy, principal researcher at Navigant Research, Sam Abuelsamid. Now, Sam, you're still in Detroit, right?
I am in Detroit, actually, more specifically in Ypsilanti, just outside of Ann Arbor.
But next week you're coming our way, right, to drive a Audi e-tron.
Flying out a week from tomorrow morning, so
fun.
Monday morning the 12th I'll be out there.
Well, have fun in the e-tron, this new electric
I'm
from
looking
Audi.
forward to that one.
Is that Audi's first all-electric?
Yes, it is. They've had some plug-in hybrids before now, but this will be their first full battery electric vehicle.
Wow, cool. And then VW's got, it's all the VW group. VW's got some coming along too.
The Volkswagen Group's going to have, I think, something like 50. They're planning something like 50 different battery electric models globally in 2025.
Wow.
Including start like for the VW brand, they're starting this fall with a car called the Well, right now it's called the ID. They haven't announced what the official name of the production model is going to be, but it's going to be a hatchback about the size of the Golf.
Yeah, I've seen the secret photos. They drive it around with that weird camouflage. But I've seen the photos, and it looks pretty nice. It looks like a nice vehicle. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that's going to be popular because people love their V-dubs. This is their penance, of course, for faking the emissions results on the diesels. They're paying a huge fee. They're $2 billion to build charging stations all across America with the Electrify America program, and they're focusing on electric vehicles. That's a good thing, I think maybe
absolutely, it's a great thing.
And the net benefit of this will be pretty good.
Yeah, they're really pushing hard to scale up the technology and build as many of these things as they can, certainly as many as they think they can sell. That's going to be the challenge, as it has been for everybody, is not so much building the cars, but finding enough customers for them.
Do you think that people are starting to accept electric vehicles, that they're becoming, especially as prices come down, that they're becoming a reasonable choice for a lot of people?
Yeah, and certainly I think we can thank Tesla for showing the world that yes, electric vehicles can be a viable mainstream product. It can be something that can have a reasonable range, that you don't have to every half hour look for a charging station. That it can be just like any other car, except without using any gas or diesel. Yeah. So that absolutely, they're definitely getting more popular everywhere.
I didn't want to derail you because but I just when you come on, I always have questions for you. What do you want to talk about today? So
over my shoulder here, you can see an Amazon delivery person dropping off a package in the back of a Ford Expedition.
It's a puzzling picture, and of course people are on the radio are probably not. But it looks like the Amazon person, and she's clearly a delivery person. She's dropping off an Amazon box. But what's she doing in my trunk?
Well, this is something that Ford announced this week, and they're joining GM and Volvo. First started doing this last year. It's a program called Key by Amazon, and you've talked about it, in the context of the program they have, to have an electronic lock on your door, and to let Amazon delivery people, be able to. Instead of leaving a package on your porch where somebody can walk up and walk away with it, they can actually unlock your door, put the package down inside, and then close the door behind them and go on to do their next delivery. Well, now they can do that to your car as well, and this kind of continues on from what we talked about last week with connected cars. It's one of the new services that are being enabled by connected vehicles by having a data modem built into your car. When an Amazon delivery person instead of having the package taken to a locker where you might have to make a side trip on your way home from work to pick it up, or leave it out in the open somewhere on a front porch, it can be delivered directly to your vehicle. And when the delivery person gets there, they tap on their little device that they use for scanning the packages. It sends a signal back to Amazon, which pings the car to unlock the trunk or the tailgate. They put the package inside, close it, and verify that it's locked, and then they go on to do their next delivery. So it can go right into a secure location in your car instead of being left out in the open somewhere. And it's just one of many new kinds of services that are being enabled by having the connectivity in the car. And as I said, GM and Volvo launched it last year. Ford's got it now, and I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more in the coming months.
It's kind of weird, though, because honestly, I could put my car in the garage. It's not sitting out in the street, but do most people just leave their car out? And aren't they at work when this is happening? And isn't their car with them? And
yeah, well,
it seems of limited use.
If you're at home and your car's in the garage, then they can just deliver it to your front door, no problem. But this
or
way,
I'm at work and my car's sitting out in the parking lot at work.
Yeah,
very rarely is there a car in my driveway.
Right.
So this would be of limited use.
This particular photo that Ford issued of it being in somebody's driveway, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But as you said, if you're at work, your office is fairly small where your studio is.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, it could be out in the open somewhere or in a public parking garage, and because the connectivity system, can transmit the GPS location of your car, they can go and find your car wherever it might be parked.
That's a good point.
And drop off the package.
Yeah. I actually like that. My Tesla has always on LTE, and I can open the Tesla app on my phone, and I can see where my car is, which is very handy when I can't remember where I've parked.
Right, and just like you can use your app to lock and unlock your car,
which
to make sure
you
didn't walk away without locking it.
Yeah.
That they can do the same thing through the Amazon servers, and unlock the vehicle once to allow the delivery person to drop off the package and then close it back up again.
Yeah, I can also beep the horn, flash the lights. But my favorite feature, and this is another thing enabled by always on LTE built into your car, if I can look at the temperature my car is currently, and if it's hot, which right now it's 82 degrees, I can turn on the AC.
So it'll be nice and cool.
When I get in. Or vice versa. If it's cold, I could turn on the heat. So I can control the climate. I could set the temperature from here and turn it on. And because, the battery's pretty big, it's got plenty of juice to do that. I don't have to start the car up or anything.
Right. And frankly, I would be a lot more comfortable with having an Amazon person dropping off a package in the trunk of my car than opening the front door of my house.
Yeah, which they also do. Yeah. And also, that's one of the things they're doing with Whole Foods. You can drop off and pick up packages at Whole Foods.
So you have the lockers, at Whole Foods and at other places. A lot of colleges have lockers set up. By
have you noticed? This happened to me. I bought tube socks the other day, and they said they'll be here tomorrow. And more I'm seeing Amazon. I have Amazon Prime, which is, by the way, the most successful subscription service in the history of the world. They estimate 100 million subscribers at around $100 a year. That's some serious money. And Amazon has said, they said in their last quarterly call that they want to make this one-day delivery. But I'm noticing it already with a lot of the products I order from Amazon. They say it'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah, depending on where you live, how your proximity to an Amazon warehouse, and they're making new warehouses all the time. A lot of times it's just as easy to get it there the next day as it is 2 days later.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Especially when they're doing their own deliveries instead of relying on FedEx or UPS.
And the next thing, of course, is drone delivery. They're going to just drop it in your
right. Well, I think that's one of the things we talked previously about Rivian. And Amazon's investment in Rivian and in Aurora that's developing autonomous vehicles. So you could see that that thread of having autonomous electric vans, Amazon vans with drones that get dispatched to drop packages off.
Isn't that amazing? I do have to say, Amazon is becoming more and more interwoven into the fabric of our life in so many ways with the Amazon Echoes. My Echo talks to me in the morning while I'm shaving. I can order stuff with the delivery, with the vans, with the whole. I feel like Amazon pretty soon.
And you keep the conversation going when you get in your car.
Yeah. Pretty soon it's going to be, oh, my soul to the Amazon store. It's like we're all.
That's why that book was called The Everything Store.
Yeah, we're all working for Amazon. Yeah. Except for Sam. He's a principal researcher at Navigant Research, and always a pleasure to have you on, Sam. We'll talk next week. Have fun in your e-tron.
I will.
All right. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls right after this. That is funny. They are amazing, Amazon.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah. I think people are starting to get creeped out by it, to be honest.
Yeah. We're starting to get more and more. You're getting Alexa in the car. You're getting packages that can be delivered anywhere you want, anytime.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep. Kind of amazing.
And now somebody mentioned reminded me in the chat. You can actually return your packages to Kohl's. So instead of having to take it to a post office,
I like that.
You can drop it off at Kohl's, and they'll take care of the returns.
Yeah. I think I probably order something from Amazon almost every day, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, we have at least a few packages a week that show up here from Amazon.
Crazy. Yeah, I'm probably more of an Amazon guy than most. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, we're having a little conversation in the chat room, irc.twit.tv, about Amazon Prime, about buying from Amazon. I always think I really ought to spread my consumer dollars around more, buy from other places. But it's just so easy to buy at Amazon. I find I just almost always just buy stuff at Amazon. They've made it really easy. But there are people in our chat room who say, no. Not, for instance, Maverick 56. I buy stuff at Target and other stores that have delivery service. And if you're not careful, you can pay more at Amazon. Also, you can buy fake stuff that look a lot like the real deal. Anyhow, I've seen better prices from Target, for example. Yeah, I should shop around more. My wife does. She's got all sorts of plugins and stuff that... What is the plugin? There's a plugin for Amazon that looks and sees if there's a better price elsewhere. And she has that. She has is it Camel? Something? Camel. I think that's what it's called. Camel. That's no wonder I can't remember the name. And then, of course, she's got the plugins for the coupons and all that other stuff too. So she's saving money right and left. It's too much trouble. I'll buy it. That's fine. The counterfeit issue, though, is a big issue on Amazon. And I've spoken to companies, big companies, who say it really hurts our business because Amazon doesn't do as much as they ought to prevent counterfeits. You're saying, wait a minute, Amazon sells counterfeits? Well, not exactly. About half the products you buy on Amazon are not sold by or fulfilled by Amazon. There's kind of 3 different ways Amazon rules. About half the products are what's called the Amazon Marketplace. They're other sellers. Sometimes they're sold by another company, but fulfilled by Amazon. That means the company ships products to the Amazon warehouse, and when you buy it, you're buying it from that company, but Amazon is shipping it to you from their warehouse. The company obviously pays Amazon a little fee for that service. And then sometimes you're buying from and shipping from a third party. It's in those latter cases, I think, that you're getting counterfeits. And, there's a lot of problems with that because Amazon isn't really checking whether they're counterfeits. They're not particularly responsive for refunds. And sometimes the counterfeits are so good you can't even tell they're counterfeits. And some big companies are really hurt by this. And there's not much they can do. Amazon recently announced appeals process or some sort of process for counterfeits that they're hoping will help, but I know that it's a big problem. So I guess as a buyer, it would behoove us all to be very careful and make sure we're not buying fake products. Recent article on Wired magazine, Amazon wants brands to fight fake products themselves. Well, that's a little challenging. The article written by Louise Matsakis says, last year my roommate bought what she thought were real Apple headphones on Amazon. They looked identical to the ones the company sells, but they turned out to be counterfeit. When she plugged them into her iPhone, she couldn't hear anything. Her experience wasn't a fluke. In 2016, Apple sued a company in New York for selling counterfeit versions of its accessories on Amazon, like charging cables. On Thursday, Amazon announced, this is Thursday of a few weeks ago, Amazon announced Project Zero, a program designed to reduce the number of fake products for sale on Amazon. But you tell me, how does this sound like it's going to work? There's a new tool that will allow some sellers to automatically remove counterfeit listings without Amazon's help. That's probably good. In the past, you've had to report it to Amazon, and then the Amazon had to investigate and then take action. I think you probably have to be a pretty big brand. Project Zero right now, invite only. You can sign up for a wait list. The thing to remember when you're buying from Amazon, you're not always buying from Amazon. There are 2.5 million independent merchants with goods for sale on Amazon's marketplace. Amazon does sell its own products, but more than half the items customers buy on Amazon are from third-party sellers. So buyer beware, I guess. Michael, Grand Rapids, Michigan, is our next call. Hi, Michael.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm well. Welcome. What can I do for you?
You could help me, probably.
Okay.
A while back, I went on a computer and tried to install Windows on it fresh.
Okay.
For some reason, I have a SSD in my laptop and a standing drive.
Okay.
1 terabyte. And for some reason, it wouldn't.
How big is the SSD?
512.
Okay, so that's plenty big to install Windows on for sure.
Because when I bought I was on the SSD.
Yeah,
My wife didn't
that's kind of where you'd want to put it because that's the fastest boot time, the fastest load time. Generally, that's where you put the operating system is on the fastest disk.
It used to be super fast, but some reason it won't let me put it. Oh, that's what I did. I put Linux on it for a little bit and tried to go back to Windows. And now it won't let me put my Windows on my SSD because it's saying, I don't know, it's saying it can't load it there.
So here's the deal. When you do the Windows install, go into the options because what you want to do is open, it's called, I think it's called the partition manager. You want to open the disk manager, the storage manager, the partition manager, because what you need to do, there are lots of bits of Linux on that disk still that Windows can't see and can't do anything with. What you'll need to do is in the disk storage manager, look at both drives and just delete every partition that's there. Basically, you want to wipe those drives. And then Windows will say, oh, okay, now I can partition and format and install on top of that. But right now it can't remove that stuff. So you need to do that manually. This is very common.
So I can't because even now in my computer when I go to the File Explorer, it only sees my 1 terabyte.
Yeah.
If I do go into that disk management, I can see them both.
Yes, exactly. So don't do this from within Windows. Do it within the Windows installer. Before you install Windows, you're going to run the disk management tool and you're going to delete all the partitions. If you want, probably not a bad idea, make primary partitions on both drives. You can make them NTFS, that's the Windows file system. But you shouldn't need to do anything more. Once Windows sees those, it'll go, yeah, I can install here. And the installer, if you're using the one from Microsoft, I hope you are, I presume you are, the installer will automatically, for Windows 10, will automatically put a hidden sector on there where the Windows recovery partition lives and all of that stuff. So you don't have to do any of that. Your job, though, is to clean up after yourself, which is to delete all the existing partitions.
So, okay.
Whoa.
And then it'll find it again and...
Yeah.
Okay.
Windows will then, it'll look to Windows like a brand new, never used disk. And Windows will then put everything on there that you need. It's a little different with Linux. Sometimes with Linux, you have to do everything a little more manually. Although many Linux installers now will say, I can handle this. You want me to? And the problem is, it's done all sorts of stuff, put weird partitions and stuff on there. You just want to delete them all. Delete all partitions. Create one primary partition on each drive. Format it NTFS. Just a quick format's fine. And then the Windows installer should operate perfectly. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography. We got your smartphones, we got your smartwatches, we got augmented reality, anything with a chip in it. We even talk about buying like through Amazon and such. 8888 Ask Leo. The phone number 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, still can reach us. Just use your Skype out to call that number, and it shouldn't cost you anything. 8888 Ask Leo. Website, techguylabs.com. There's no fee, no sign up, but everything I say is there. So it's just a resource for you to use anytime. We even put audio and video of old shows, past shows up there. 1,589 of them. Back to the phones we go. Line 4, Nolan in Los Angeles. Hello, Nolan.
Hey, Leo.
Welcome.
Hopefully you can. I am so confused.
Okay.
Okay. So I tried to follow your instructions in terms of several backups in different areas and all of that. So basically, I had a hard drive that was connected to my Mac. Then I used a portable hard drive, and then I took it with me. But I think I banged it up so much that it's now not being recognized by my Mac when I reattached it.
Okay.
And so one is, how can I get that information from the hard drive? And then lastly, I'm not sure if I use the cloud, but at one point I was putting pictures on there only on the hard drive and not on the cloud to use up that space. So I'm kind of confused. How can I retrieve that information on the hard drive?
Well, so the first thing to understand about backing things up is if there's one copy of it, it's not backed up.
Okay.
Right? Even if it says on that hard drive in big letters, backup drive. Just because it's on that drive doesn't mean it's backed up. If you erase the original on your computer or on the camera, and you only have one copy, that's not backed up. That's the original. That's all that's left. And now you understand why. Because you don't have a backup. You only have what's on that drive. So very important concept, get in your mind for future, is a backup means you've got ideally, at least 2, but ideally 3 copies of the data. That could be the original and 2 backups. And you want to have at least one of those backups somewhere besides where the original is. We call it off-site. That's really for the worst case scenario. Let's say the house burns down or somebody steals all your gear. You want to make sure that you also have a cloud is a good place to put that, but it could be also at work, just somewhere not where your originals are. And that's how if you're a wedding photographer and they're not going to stage that wedding again because you lost the pictures of the bride. They're going to kill you. So if you're a wedding photographer, you cannot lose this data. So that's why you make 3 copies. In fact, this is where I got this rule from. A good friend of mine, professional photographer Peter Krogh, Krogh. He wrote a book called The Digital Asset Management Book. Actually, the 2nd edition just came out, the damn book. And he talks a lot about this. He calls it 3-2-1 backup. And he writes about it on a site that's really good called dpworkflow.org. But let's get your data, not your backup, your data. Let's save it. Tell me a little bit about the USB drive that's not working. Is it a big size thing or is it a little one?
So it's like it's one of the passport.
Oh, good. Okay.
External hard drive.
So that's a real hard drive inside that box. What they do to make USB drives, they take regular hard drives that kind of be inside your computer, and they put it in that USB case. So,
and it's spinning because I can hear it spinning.
Excellent. So there's a number of places it can go wrong. It could just be the cable. It could be the USB enclosure itself. It could be the circuit board in the enclosure is messed up. The drive might be fine. The fact that it's spinning, that's a good start. They do, portable drives get shooken up a little bit, and maybe it got damaged in the banging it up, I don't know. But we can try to kind of recover it. First thing to do is take it out of that enclosure. See if it's the enclosure, the cable, any of that stuff. And your enclosure, the passport enclosures, there's probably screws on that. They may be hidden under the rubber feet, so you might have to look for them. But generally, you can unscrew it, and inside you'll see there's a regular hard drive in there. Probably a laptop hard drive, but there's a hard drive in there. You could put it in another enclosure. People who work with hard drives a lot usually have a special adapter, and Newer Tech sells these for about $30 or $40. It's at Newer Tech, N-E-W-E-R, newertech.com. They call it their USB universal drive adapter. And what it is just a little dongle that has a USB connector on one end. On the other end, it's got this crazy multi-connection thing that is designed to hook up to any hard drive in existence. It's a great thing to have. I use these all the time. They call it the Swiss Army knife of drive connectivity. If you have that, or you can bring it to somebody who has that, or you get another enclosure, you could get another passport for whatever. But take that drive out of the enclosure it's in and somehow connect it and see if it works. Cross your fingers. Maybe it's just the enclosure that's broken, right?
And then if it doesn't, what do I do?
Well, now it can start getting expensive because there are only a few avenues to get your data back at this point. It depends what's wrong. Sometimes hard drives just have what we call soft errors. Like maybe when it was writing to the drive, you unplugged it or you shook it, and the head in the recording device inside the drive spewed ones and zeros across the drive, happened to hit an area that it needs to read the rest of the drive. If that's the case, your data is still there, but it just can't be read by a computer. That's fairly easy to recover with software. You could do it, or a service bureau could do it, and it wouldn't be too expensive. The other scenario is that there's a hard drive problem, a hard failure. So those are soft failures that can be fixed with software. Hard failures are often thousands of dollars to fix. It could be, once you take out the hard drive, you'll see there's a circuit board on top of it. Could be that's failed. You take it to a company that does this. I take it to a local company called Drive Savers. They're pretty well known up here in Northern California. They have those circuit boards for all models of hard drives. They could take yours off, put a new known good one on, and see if that works. If not, the next step is to open up the drive. If it's a spinning drive, there's platters inside. There's a recording head or two or three or four inside. All of those will be examined. If some of them are damaged, they have the parts to replace it. But you have to do that in a clean room environment because any dust in there is going to ruin it. So they're wearing bunny suits. They're in a special capsule that has no dust in it. That's why it could cost $5,000. Could cost a lot of money. So you have to ask yourself, how important is it that you get these photos back? First thing I'd try is maybe see if you can, maybe it's just the connection, the box, the containers. That's a cheap thing to try. Next step, once you've got it into a known good box and known good container, is to run some software, drive recovery software. It just depends on what's wrong. My friend Steve Gibson makes a program called SpinRite that often will help situations like this. That's about $90 at grc.com. There are other programs. His doesn't care about the file system or anything. It just goes through the drive sector by sector, looks for bad sectors, bad portions of the drive, tries as hard as it can, much harder than the operating system, to read them, and then moves that data somewhere else. Often that's enough to recover it. But if that's not the problem, then you might need other software tools. This is where it's usually better just to bring it to somebody who specializes in this, because they'll have all those tools. Yeah. And next time, make multiple copies. It ain't a backup because it's on a drive that says backup. It's a backup because it's one of multiple copies of the original.
Well, I started that after the fact. I have it on my computer, and I have this portable, and I thought those are the three places that you told me.
Except that then you erase the original. Right?
Okay.
Now it's not a backup anymore. It's the only copy. The idea is to have multiple existing copies so that if one fails, you can still go, oh, I got the originals on the drive, or I got the originals in the cloud. Otherwise, it's not a backup. It's all right. You know who's really good at backing up their data? People who've lost data. It's a expensive lesson sometimes, but a lesson learned. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888-esque. Leo? I'll put a link in the show notes to Peter Krog's book, the damn book, and his article about backup, because they're great reads. Our podcast today brought to you by, I guess you probably know, Carbonite, the premier data protection platform for business. Again and again, we're hearing stories about companies losing millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, because they get hit by ransomware and they don't have a backup. Unbelievable. Norsk Hydro, the second biggest aluminum manufacturer in the world, just got hit by ransomware. Shut down operations. Mondelez, a company that makes all those food products, including Oreos, couldn't ship an order for weeks thanks to ransomware, lost more than $100 million. Maersk, the shipping company, Merck, the pharmaceutical company, hundreds of millions of dollars. Don't let this be you. If you've got a business, your data is the most vital thing to keep your business up and running. And Carbonite is the data protection platform. It is everything you need. Of course, first thing when I say Carbonite, you think backup, and they've got that backup for local hard drives. But they also have backup for virtual machines and cloud systems. So you can back up your cloud. So if something should happen to the cloud, you've got a copy. And by the way, that's really handy if you ever want to move clouds or split clouds. You've got all that data stored safely on the Carbonite servers. They also have something called high availability backup. Now, this is really important. Now, it's going to cost a little more because, well, what it does is real-time replication. It's always backing up all the time, all your data to the cloud, but it also has a cloud failover capability. So you can flip a switch. If, let's say you get bit, let's say ransomware just takes over the whole company. You flip that switch. Instead of running on your computers locally, you're running off the cloud with good data, not encrypted data, because of Carbonite. You got laptops, you got phones, you got endpoints out there in the world where you need enterprise-grade endpoint protection, end-to-end encryption, deduplication, bandwidth management tools, and most importantly, remote wipe capability. Carbonite can give you all that. I think you're starting to get the idea. Carbonite supports over 200 operating systems, applications, and platforms. So they have all kinds of solutions to help you build a comprehensive single vendor plan that matches your workloads, your risk tolerance, your business objectives at a price that's right. So simplify your environment, eliminate gaps in your data protection, reduce redundancies. Carbonite is a secure, trusted provider. And by the way, we always say this, you need one number to call when disaster strikes. That number, Carbonite, they're there 7 days a week with award-winning customer service. So you're never out of luck. Learn more about Carbonite's data protection platform. You can find out everything at Carbonite.com. Carbonite.com, the data protection platform for business. We thank them so much for supporting the podcast. And if you think you need that kind of service, you better call them, Carbonite.com. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, I got a link. I put a link up to Peter Krog's book on digital asset management for photographers and his really good article on 321 backup up on our website, techguylabs.com, so you can refer to that. Our photo guy, Chris Marquardt, coming up. It's really photographers who I think lead the way in backup because there's such a risk. You lose a client's photos. It's really bad for your business. It's really bad. Librarians, of all people. This is a topic for modern library science. Archiving, preserving information. And you know, their job is a little more challenging than it used to be. When everything was on paper, well, you thought about how you can organize books so that you can find them and how you can store them so that you can preserve them. And, of course, paper, especially poorly made paper, does disintegrate over time. But those are things you can deal with. Well, digital formats have changed the business a lot. If you put all your data on zip drives 15 years ago, good luck getting them off that drive. It's probably still the case. The best way to archive something is to print it out. At least you'll be able to read that in the future. Even, will you be able to read Microsoft Word's file format 100 years from now? Probably not, but you probably can read that printed page. 8888 ask Leo. So sometimes the best backup is a printout. Not of pictures, but maybe even of pictures. Sam in Costa Mesa, California. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Leo. I had an LG G6, and the one thing I liked about it is on the back of the phone is the home button where I can turn on and off the home screen. I'm a contractor, so my phone's constantly going in and out of a holster and all that, and I want to be able to shut the screen off so I don't misdial. Like when I called in, when I put it in the holster on my new Pixel 3, it put me on mute.
I hate that. I know exactly. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I hate that.
So what I'm wondering is, I can open the screen obviously with the fingerprint reader on this new Pixel phone, but I can't close it. Is there a way? Is there an app that will allow it to do both ways, or am I going back to LG?
Oh, yeah, there's totally a bunch of ways. Really, normally what people do is they press the on-off button, and that turns off the screen and locks it.
Well, with the case on it, though, it's a little bit harder to do that. It was just so much easier just to touch the back of the phone. Well,
good news, you're not going to be able to buy a phone with a physical home button ever again. So those days are long gone because people want the biggest possible screen. Of course, that physical home button at the bottom of the screen it's called the chin, takes up a lot of that screen real estate. So nowadays, that's why we've got notches. You got a notch on your Pixel 3 so they could still have cameras in the face but have the screen go all the way to the edges. We don't have home buttons anymore. The Pixel has some settings. One of the things you'll find as you use your phone is you'll get better and better at configuring it. Pixel does have some settings that you might find useful. You can create a lock gesture, for instance, if you want an on-screen lock gesture. I think that might be what you want. I mean, honestly,
that sounds like it.
Yeah, the way that they expect you to do it is to people think that's the on-off switch on the side there. That's really the wake sleep button. And if you just press it, it'll put it to sleep. It'll lock it. Again, that's up to settings that you have in the phone. You can set it to lock immediately on sleep, or you can have it wait a little bit so that you can unlock it quickly if you change your mind. All of these things. This is why Android is not for everybody. I personally like total control, and I like to play with the settings, but some people don't. They use iPhones. because you can't really do anything with an iPhone. It's just the way it is.
All righty. The final question for you.
Oh, there is, by the way, there's an app. Thank you, Scooter X.
Oh.
This might be the app that you really want, which is, it's called Fingerprint Quick Action. Oh, unfortunately, it doesn't work on the latest Android. Darn it. But I'm sure there are other apps like this that lets you use the fingerprint reader to put the phone to sleep. Just as you unlock it with it, you can sleep it with it. I bet you there's other apps
I'll
like
do
that.
a Google search.
Yeah, I bet there's other apps. Unfortunately, I see that this does not work on Android P or later, which means it won't work on your Pixel 3.
Okay, and real quick, I've gotten a new computer with Google's 10. I'm not sure why people were so scared of 10. It's actually just seems like your Android phone now on a PC. But I'm enjoying it.
Good.
The problem was I was coming from 7, and I had Micro Center transfer everything over. And I have my QuickBooks on there, and I can open it up, but it doesn't have my current files. So what I did is I got a brand new SSD and created a copy or a backup file of QuickBooks on it. But when I go to plug it in my new computer, it must not be seeing it because I can't open it. And I never see, okay, drive F is here.
Right. And if you open the File Explorer, you don't see other drives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So a lot of times when you buy a third-party, a external drive, it's formatted. I'm betting this one was formatted for a Mac as opposed to formatted for Windows. And Windows can't read the Mac format. That's usually what's wrong when you get a USB drive that doesn't mount. So I would open. Do you know who made that drive?
It's SanDisk.
Yeah.
It's a 500 megabyte SSD SanDisk hard drive.
Oh. Okay. Sometimes these drives, these little portable drives, have built-in encryption. You actually have to run a program to make them visible. This drive may have that. So you need to look at since you probably threw out the materials when you unpack the drive.
Oh, yeah.
Go online and look and see if there's any special program you need to install. Sometimes these little portable drives, they're worried about them being lost, so they have built-in encryption. And I think SanDisk is one of the companies that does that. If not, simply formatting the drive for NTFS, use the the disk manager and format it. You shouldn't have any trouble. I think that's probably what's wrong.
Okay, appreciate your help, Leo.
All right, and I'm looking through XDA developers' website for a replacement. I guess the problem with Android 9 is it doesn't allow listening to fingerprints in the background, so the app can't lock and unlock in the background. Interesting. Yeah, hit Windows X, click Disk Management, and look and see if that drive is being mounted. And if it is, then you can, and if it's not the right format, you can reformat.
But it's good that you bring your camera with you.
Well,
And
it's a start.
by the way, but if you're at a point right now where you don't feel it, then there's nothing wrong with just not taking any pictures for like an entire month. Maybe I should tell you to not take photos.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe stop doing it for a month.
Oh,
It's May 1st of June is your next photo. You cannot take a photo until the 1st of June.
no.
Well, let me be your therapist.
The nice thing about the Leica is that it shoots DNGs. And one of the things I'm playing with now is moving away from Mac and Windows to Linux.
Okay.
And I want to find the right software tools. There's nothing quite as good as the tools available, but
Darktable.
Darktable's good. There's another one called Raw Therapy that I like even more.
Heard about that, but I haven't really used it.
And then you use Gthumb for the import because neither one does the damn stuff, but Gthumb does. So the computer I'm using has an SD card reader. I pop the card in. Gthumb will load it, and just like Lightroom, file it away by folder and month and date. And then you open those in Raw Therapy. Raw Therapy is like the GIMP. I mean, or your Blender or something. It's hard to use, but I think I could do everything I want.
You're giving a bit of comfort, yeah.
Yeah, you can do everything you want.
But hey, that's not a bad thing. I mean, that might make other things more important.
Yes. I wonder if Paul Simon was a photographer. I should ask him that. Is that why he wrote this song?
There are a lot of people that you would connect with photography. Leonard Nimoy, for example.
Yeah.
He was a great photographer. Jeff Bridges.
Neil Young
shoots a lot.
Oh,
Neil
no.
Young,
Was it Graham Nash? Maybe it was Graham Nash. Yeah, Graham Nash took a lot of pictures. He's famous photographer for his rock photography.
I wouldn't be surprised if
Maybe
Paul
Simon
was a photographer.
It's
Maybe
time-
that's why he wrote the song.
Must be, right? It's time for our photo segment with Chris Marquardt, brought to you by the revolutionary Epson EcoTank printers. Cartridge reprinting with EcoTank comes with up to 2 years of ink in the box. For all your business needs, go to Epson.com/EcoTank. Leo to learn more. Epson EcoTank. Never buy an ink cartridge again. Of course, all the photographers I know use Epsons to print photos. That's the best way to print your photography. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Leo.
Chris Marquardt's here. You've got 3 exciting new, I really want to take one of these, photo workshops. Chris, besides being a professional photographer, is a great teacher. He's an author, too. And tell us about these new workshops.
Well, we've done a big push to set up 3 new photo tours for the first half of 2020. And it's an interesting thing because I once swore that I won't go back to places after I've been there twice. And because I get bored easily, I want something new. I want something fresh. But I'm going back to all those 3. And we've just set up brand new itineraries for those. The first is Lake Baikal in Siberia, which the big ice journey is what we call it. The Lake Baikal holds about 20% of the world's freshwater supply. So it's really big. And we'll be spending 10 days there. 10 days in the Siberian culture, and probably some of the most amazing ice photography, at least that I've ever done, right on the lake in February. So it's going to be a bit of an adventure.
Now, this is not next year, but in 2020. That's how far ahead you have to plan if you want to go on one of these.
This is 2020, next year. But it's
that is next year.
That is next
Wait
year.
a minute. Holy cow. How did we get there? So, yes, but it's next year, like more than a year from now.
Yeah,
right?
I want to give people the opportunity to figure everything out that they need to know about this. The second one is 1 month later in March. We'll visit the tribes of the of Omo Valley in Ethiopia.
Oh, wow.
I've been there twice, and Ethiopia is just such a diverse country. They have like over 80 languages, and we'll go to the one place where like that diversity comes together with ancient migration routes, and they're still very, very traditional tribes there that are not visited a lot by tourists. So we'll visit them in March 2020, and then the last one, I know that's the one you want to go, is Bhutan.
Actually, I want to go on all 3, but okay.
Bhutan, I love saying land of the thunder dragon, kingdom of happiness. That's what they call themselves. And it's perhaps one of the most exclusive destinations that you could go to right now, because they only opened for tourism in like 74, I think. It's highly restricted, so not a lot of people can get in. And it's this ancient kingdom in the Himalayas filled with monasteries and fortresses and ancient temples and prayer flags that flutter in the wind. And most important, the people are happy. There's so many warm smiles and just genuine friendliness of the people. And we'll cross Bhutan into India, and then we have an optional extension to see the Taj Mahal. So that's...
Oh, I'd love to do that. So now for me, any of those would be the first time. And so I understand what you're saying. You don't want to go back to a place twice because... the third time it's like, well, been there, done that. And one of the hard things I have is doing photography at home because there's nothing to inspire me. I've seen everything a million times.
Yeah, and it's like, when you've been to that place and you're home, you're always there. That place. But if you even travel to a place and you go there maybe twice, then the training wheels are off. You know your way around. You kind of leveled up to the point where it's not that exciting anymore. So that's why we changed it around and making it something new. But one reason I believe that I did that and that I kind of have to do this is because I get bored easily. And boredom, there's this hypothesis that's ancient, that's very old, but I share that, and that's that boredom sparks creativity.
Yeah.
The problem, I think, and many scientists think, is we aren't really bored anymore. I mean, today we just pick up the phone and
who has a chance to
Twitter
get bored?
or Reddit, and you won't be bored anymore.
No,
right?
yeah.
But
We're amusing ourselves to death. There's too much entertainment.
I mean, there are studies that suggest that being bored can be like a great boost for your creativity. There's one study that had people do something really boring and then like copying numbers, and then they gave them tasks that required creative thinking. And it turns out the bored ones were more creative. And another study, subjects did better in creativity tests after they'd been forced like to watch a dull screensaver, stuff that is kind of painful, you know? And it really seems that the boredom kicks your mind into kind of a different gear, into kind of a seeking state, you know, state where you're looking for things. I mean, you know, the term daydreaming, no one really does that anymore. Just looking out the window, it doesn't really happen anymore. And if you manage to get into that state where you let your thoughts drift to interesting places, that's where creative stuff can happen. And at least for me, that is supported by my own observations. You know, what I do is very seasonal. I'm out for some photo tours, and then that's very exciting. And I go to see and experience cool stuff and interesting cultures, and I see the great landscapes and everything. But when I then come back home, I'll have to shift gears, and that's office work and doing the taxes and emails and stuff.
So boring.
And I mean, I don't get me wrong. I love being back home, but then I kind of need to get busy again, but I let that boredom happen. So that's when I get into this different gear of starting to believe, starting to want to move things. And I believe that we should just allow ourselves to be bored a bit more often. I think it would help.
I think this is one of the reasons I like your assignments, because they give me a reason to go out where I already am and I know very well, but to find images in a particular category.
And look at them with a different eye, right?
Yeah, that's why I like to travel, because it's all boom, 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 brand new.
It is exciting, but if you can transfer some of that back to your backyard and find stuff. Our current assignment is building, which means take a photo of a building. We are surrounded by buildings, and the challenge is to look at these buildings and find something that's a bit different in them, and that makes them interesting. And I think that people, the moment they start looking a bit more and maybe just wander around and let things happen and not go out, take that photo, come back in, but take some time and maybe get a bit bored, I think that's when interesting things can come out.
Good. So bore yourself.
Yes.
And see what happens. Creativity, for a while. Boredom is often a gateway to creativity. And I remember as a kid, we would say, I'm bored. My kids never did that. They didn't get a chance. As you say, nowadays, there's stimulus everywhere.
Aren't these moments when you were bored as a kid, when you started inventing weird machines and stuff?
Yes. That's when I sat down with the Lego and started building stuff, because I was bored.
There you go.
And so the best thing a parent could do is say, good, you're bored. That's good. I'm sure you'll find something fun to do.
Right.
Yeah. Or and Chris is doing this because I am in the doldrums with my photography. So I've started carrying my camera around as a first step to keeping my eyes peeled, looking for something visual and interesting having to do with building. If you get that picture, upload it to Flickr. Our tech guy group, Renee Silverman, the moderator, will accept your picture. You can upload up to one a week, and in a couple of weeks, Chris will pick 3 to review on the air. Building is the assignment. Chris Marquardt and his amazing workshops are at discoverthetopfloor.com. discoverthetopfloor.com. Oh man, I'd love to do all 3 of them. Thank you, Chris. Have a great week. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888. Ask Leo. Let's talk high tech. You and me and Ted in El Paso, Texas. Hello, Ted.
Senor Laporte.
Senor Ted.
Buen dia de Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, it is. It's Cinco de Mayo. I forgot.
It's not really a Mexican holiday. It's more for
Gringos celebrate the Mexican Revolution for some reason.
I have no idea why. Anyways, just going off of Chris Marquardt's recent thing, I listen to him every week. I love his stuff. I had an art project in the late 90s called 1,000 Hands and 1 Foot, and it was a digital partially digital display, and I saved it on a SCSI drive.
Oh, no.
And guess what?
Oh, no.
I know. I'd have to do it all over again.
Well, you probably can. I mean, you probably can get an interface that would go SCSI to USB. In fact, I know you can.
Who knows? I'm not even going there. I just thought it was funny that.
Well, we all did that. We've all done that, and that's the irony of it. You'd think, oh, now that things are bits, you'd never lose anything. No.
Right.
Quite the opposite.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Should I go on eBay and search for a SCSI drive?
No. No.
Anyways. My situation is this: I have an Android Moto G4. Yep. Really, it's through the last year.
Yeah, they're great. I recommend those Motos. The Gs are great.
Wonderful.
They're up to the G7 now, but
with my iPad, so that I can get the Wi-Fi on my iPad.
Yeah, perfect.
I mean, it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
However, the last couple of days, it went to when I popped up the Google Chrome, up popped DuckDuckGo.
Yeah.
I have no idea why. Maybe it was an update. I have no idea why. And then it went into Incognito DuckDuckGo.
Oh, wow.
My question for you is, what is the use of Incognito? Does it really, really matter whether you're incognito or not?
A great question. Important question, because I think people credit Incognito Mode with more than it really is. By the way, this is the same as private browsing. Different browsers call it different things. Chrome calls it Incognito Mode. So first of all, let me just mention DuckDuckGo, which is an alternative to Google search. In honesty, it's not quite as good, but it has the benefit of they don't save your searches. So every time you search on Google, Google aggregates all that information. That's how it decides what ads to show you, among other things. And while we don't know for sure, it's possible Google's also giving that information to other third parties. The other thing we do know is if you just gave me all your searches for the last month anonymously, chances are pretty good I could figure out it's you. And a reporter did that. Yahoo offered a so-called anonymized data set of searches many years ago. And the theory being researchers might want to use it. But a reporter showed that within a day he was able to figure out one person from those searches based on her searches. And called her and she said, yeah, that's me. So, never assume you're anonymous on the internet. If you do want to be anonymous, DuckDuckGo is a good choice. It may be that somehow you're some sort of privacy switch got turned on your machine.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Incognito Mode you probably shouldn't day by day use. Here's what Incognito Mode does. It doesn't do much, frankly. It doesn't, so you know you have a browsing history in your browser. It doesn't save where you've gone in Incognito Mode to your history. It doesn't save information you enter in forms. However, any cookies that the site saved on your drive are preserved. Any data from the site is preserved, but when you exit Incognito Mode, it's deleted. So I guess you could say, while I'm in Incognito Mode, it's collecting information to that degree, but as soon as I exit out, it erases it. However, very important, the website you're visiting knows it's you, doesn't make you incognito to the website you're visiting. Anybody who runs the network, your internet service provider, Verizon, AT&T, your carrier, if you're at a school or an office, all of them get to see what you're doing. Incognito Mode does not protect you from them. If you go to Gmail, that site might save all you're doing because it knows it's your account because you're logged into Gmail. So Incognito Mode is not nearly as private, I think, as some people think. It mainly means don't save the history of my visit to this site to my machine and don't save the cookies or site data to my machine. So take that as you will. It is not particularly safe. It also is inconvenient if you do it because the next time you go to that site, it won't remember that last visit unless they saved it locally on their site. So I don't, frankly, use Incognito Mode very much. Mostly, I'll tell you what I think it's mostly for. People who want to visit adult sites and not have their spouses know. To be honest, I think that's the main purpose. So it's not in your browser. We've seen many of us, you've seen those TV shows where the spouse comes over and says, let me see what that she's been searching for. And oh my gosh, it prevents that. Okay. That's about it.
Got it.
If you're on a public computer, it might not be a bad idea to use incognito mode. At least that local computer won't save any information about your visits. And many computers have a guest mode, which does the same thing. If you log in as guest mode, anything you've done on the computer is erased when you log out. I would certainly do that in a public computer. Just remember that as you go out onto the internet, the people you're visiting know who you are. They think, oh, hey, how you doing? Good to see you, Ted. What's up? Happy Cinco de Mayo. They know. It's just that computer won't save that data. Zephyr in the chat room says, well, incognito mode is for research purposes. Yes, of course. That's exactly what it's for. It's all about the research. Mark, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Leo. How you doing today?
I am well. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. Hey, I had a little bit of a concern. I had called Guitar Center the other day. It was actually yesterday. And after I got done speaking to the representative, and I was just asking them about a store opening here in Myrtle Beach, which is long overdue. And he gave me the information. Everything was cool. 30 seconds or so after the phone call, I get an email saying, basically, to do a survey. How was your call?
Oh, man.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm not registered.
You never gave them your phone number or any information.
Correct. And,
did you on the call? You must have, right? You must have said, here's...
No. The only thing, I informed him I'm in Myrtle Beach, and he was basically looking up to see when the store was going to open and so forth.
So they had caller ID turned on. You're not blocking caller ID. Most people don't. You can. There's a way to do that. We can talk about that. The caller ID told the rep at Guitar Center, probably not even the human, it probably was done all automatically, what your phone number is. They did a reverse number lookup, which you could do yourself. And apparently there's enough data about you, including your email address, that they were able to fire off an email. That's called Customer Relationship Management, CRM.
The fact that it came through Gmail, my first
was... it's just email. No, it's their system. Okay. They have a system to do it. A lot of companies do. I guess the bottom line here is to remember, it's not that one interaction. All of the things you do, online, offline, in life, all of those are being basically recorded by a variety of sources, which can build quite a dossier about your behavior. Saw the funniest tweet stream about the More Cowbell skit. Somebody tweeted, it's not funny. People pretend they think it's funny, and they're pretending to laugh at it, but it's not funny. So somebody explains the 15 different levels on which it is actually very funny. The people aren't faking it when they're laughing at it. I should find that. It was a very funny... The comedy world was rocked this week when Bloomberg opinion writer Noah Smith posted the below two tweets about the cowbell sketch. The real joke of the SNL More Cowbell skits is there actually is no joke. It's not funny at all, and More Cowbell has zero meaning or significance. The actual humor is in watching people straining to understand the joke or tricking themselves into thinking they get it. In other words, the More Cowbell skit is a demonstration of gaslighting, that gaslighting has benign uses. Simply insisting over and over that the skit contains an actual joke until people question their sense of reality is funny. That's just bizarre. So William Bibbiani, who's a film critic, posted a 23-tweet storm breaking the sketch down and concludes with some helpful thoughts about how when critics are dismissive of comedy and assume a joke doesn't exist when they don't get it, they do so at their own peril. The real joke here is that humor warrants sophisticated analysis, and yet many people are eager to write it off as ineffable nonsense, or worse, as gaslighting, which makes no sense in this context. You're not making the audience doubt their sanity, you're making them laugh. Laughter doesn't stem from nonsense. Laughter stems from discovery, the sudden realization of a truth or a lie. The things we take for granted getting explored in unexpected ways. The assumptions we make getting questioned and recontextualized. Humor is sanity, not insanity. By the way, that's brilliant. I think the lesson we learned here today is if you don't get a joke, it's okay to say you don't get it. The people who are laughing can probably explain it to you, and then you'll be able to understand similar jokes in the future and get them all on your own. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy, Hour 3 of the Tech Guy Show, in which we discuss, in the following order, computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Tumblr, Amazon. Oh, I'm going to run out of time. If I described everything we talk about, the show would be over. 8888 Ask Leo. Sometimes I say anything with a chip in it, but that's just the hardware. Anything digital, that's just the software, but both. It's tech, you know it when you see it. 8888 Ask Leo, the website, techguylabs.com. Part of the problem is that tech now is so interwoven into every part of our lives that it's just life, right? When I first started doing this show in the early 90s, many moons ago, it was pretty clear, what was high tech. The internet wasn't even really it was a thing, but only in academic institutions. People didn't know, it wasn't widely known. You knew what a PC was and a Mac. We didn't have smartphones. We didn't have tablets. Didn't even have the Newton yet. So in those days, I think the demarcation was pretty clear. This is tech, this is not tech. Now, you got tech everywhere. That's one of the things that happened over the last 27 years is that tech became integrated into the fabric of it. Sometimes historians of technology say technology moved from the center to the edges, that it became distributed. And really, that's almost the history of computing, right? It started with these big mainframe computers that were in specially air-conditioned rooms with raised floors and their own priesthood to keep them running and keep them working. That was the way it used to be. And if you wanted to use a computer in the 50s or the 60s, even when I was in college in the early 70s, you'd have to go to this priesthood and say, please, sir, could you run this job for me? And you'd hand them a stack of cards with holes punched in them, and they'd say, all right, come back tomorrow. Now, you've got computers in everything, in your refrigerator, in your curtains, in your car, in your TV, everywhere. And they're little teeny weeny things, maybe not, super powerful, maybe just do one thing well, but that's kind of the power of it. When all of them are combined, we're kind of moving toward this kind of sensate layer of technology, and that's what we were talking about with our caller at the end of the show last hour. He was wondering. He made a call to Guitar Center's help desk, and within a minute after getting off the call, even though he hadn't introduced himself or given his email address or anything, and he wasn't in their database, Guitar Center sent him an email saying, "How was the call? Give us a score." Huh? How'd they do that? Well, that's what's happened with this kind of sensor system that's all out there. It's gathering information from a lot of sources. If you walk into a Target, there was a great article a few years ago about a young woman. Target knew she was pregnant before her family did because of where she went in the Target store, what she bought. The cameras in the store see you going in. If you have a Target card and you make those purchases on the Target card, all that information gets added to the database. There is a increasingly rich set of information about each and every one of us. And the thing that's really changed, thanks to technology, is that data, which used to be held in small silos in different companies. There's a company called Axiom, for instance, that I remember interviewing in the 90s. They knew based on your zip code what car you were likely to buy, what magazines you were likely to subscribe to. It wasn't a very fine tool, but your zip code was enough because birds of a feather flock together, and they could make a lot of good predictions. Axiom, ACXIOM, is still around. Listen to their tagline: "Power exceptional marketing experiences everywhere, with a unified data and technology foundation." Unified means we're going to take data from a lot of different sources. Some of it's public data. Some of it is data owned by companies that they then sell on to other companies. Read the privacy policy when you visit a website. Almost always there's a section called third parties and explains under what circumstances your information will be sold or sent or given to other companies. Usually it has some legalistic weasel words. In order to improve your experience, we reserve the right to share information about your visit with our trusted partners. In order to make more money, we reserve the right to sell or give your information to anybody we darn well want. And we do. So don't be surprised, because this has been creeping up on us for decades. Computers have made it very easy to trade that data, and even more importantly, powerful computing technology has made it possible to sift that data, to organize that data, to make conclusions about that data. And as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't bother me if I see an ad or I get an email saying, hey, you were just on a call. As long as you understand it's not witchcraft, it's not black magic. You were just on a call with Guitar Center. How was your experience? Big deal. As long as you understand, there's nothing magic going on. You can kind of see the threads. Or you get an ad when you go to a website, an ad for a product that you just visit. I just visited Boll and Branch sheets, and now I'm getting ads on Facebook saying, would you like to buy sheets from somebody else? How did they know? Well, all of that data is aggregated, chewed upon, spit out, and informs your ad that you're going to see. And if they stopped there, I'd be fine. And I think I mean, if you think about it, what's wrong with that? Wouldn't you rather see an ad for something you're interested in, something you're in the market for, than an ad for something you couldn't care less about? I think most of us would say, yeah. I mean, plenty of people say, well, I don't want any ads. But look, ads are a given. We're not going to give you this radio show for free. We've got to make some money on it. Well, actually, we do give it to you for free, but that's because advertisers pay to be on it. And our advertisers tend to be the kind of companies that want to talk to techies, to tech enthusiasts, because that's who listens to this show. That makes sense. In fact, mass media ads on radio and TV are kind of the last place ads aren't directly customized to you. 80% of all online advertising goes through two companies, Facebook and Google. Why? Because Facebook and Google know more about you than anybody else. So they can say to an advertiser, do you want a 35-year-old smoker who lives in Western Philadelphia and owns 2 cars and has a cat? Do you want that guy? We can sell him. We know 500 people like that, and we could sell you an ad for that. If you look at, it's fascinating, the Facebook ad buys tend to be very small, $100 buys, because advertisers are buying little tiny groups of people. They're not expensive. They're just buying a lot of them. They're spending millions of dollars, $100 at a time. And as a result, their ads are much more effective. Again, I don't have that much problem with that. Where you start to run into problems is where companies are starting to use ads or what they know about you in other ways. For instance, an insurance company that knows you like donuts and refuses you a life insurance policy because of it. Or presidential candidates who advertise dark ads no one else but you sees, particularly targeted at your weird quirks. Now, I don't even know if that's a bad thing, except that it's very effective. But you could see that we're starting to verge into an area where the information companies know about you is used to influence you in more than just, what brand of detergent you use. And that's where it's starting to get a little worrisome. I know I am not personally all that worried about it, but it's something to be aware of. And when something creepy and weird happens, like Guitar Center sending you an email after you get off the phone with them, understand that is the evidence of what's going on behind the scenes, of this, shadow profile that is being built around each and every one of us. The only way to avoid it is to stay offline. Or, as my friend, Father Robert Balaser, he's a priest but also a privacy guru, he does something else. I'm not sure, I don't know if this is a good idea or not. He fuzzes his internet presence by creating accounts all over the world in different places, different names, different profiles, so that a profile can't be built of him. He creates, in effect, a fake persona or 2 or 3. It's a lot of work. And then he just gets a bunch of ads that don't make any sense. I don't know if that's a benefit. 8888 Ask Leo. We could talk about that. Certainly anything that's on your mind if it has to do with tech. And as you can see, tech has a lot to do with everything. Let's talk high tech. 8888 Ask Leo. And I'll be here sitting here waiting for your call right after this. I think it needs more cowbell. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I just happen to have more cowbell ready for the song 8888 Ask Leo. I got this from morecowbell.com. This came up because it was off the show, and I mentioned this, and then we'll get back to the phone calls. There was a Twitter storm last week. A critic for Bloomberg, I think, wrote an article, or a tweet, actually it wasn't even an article, just a tweet saying, I think the Saturday Night Live More Cowbell sketch with Will Ferrell and Christopher Walken isn't funny. There's no joke. The joke is watching people pretend that there's something funny in it. To which a historian of comedy wrote a 23-tweet, this is where Twitter is just weird, 23-tweet response explaining the many-layered comedy of that Saturday Night Live skit. But the funny thing to me is I thought it was funny. I asked the chat room, and they said, a lot of them said, nah, it's not funny. That's one of the most funny skits ever. But I guess, that's comedy right there. And that's Twitter in a nutshell. Say something offhand, throwaway comment, the kind of thing you'd say at a water cooler, right? In the old days, you'd say something offhand, maybe dumb, maybe stupid, maybe sexist, maybe embarrassing, but it'd be forgotten because you just said it at the water cooler and you moved on. Now people say that kind of thing, but they say it on Twitter where it lives forever and engenders many dozen tweet responses. People who take everything very seriously. Very seriously. 88, what a world we live in. 8888 Ask Leo. Mission Viejo, California. Jerry, you're next.
Yes, Leo. Great show.
Thank you.
Okay, Leo, I have an Asus Zenfone 3 Zoom.
Yep.
Okay, and when I updated to Android 7.0,
yes,
Nugent, I no longer have my selfie camera. I lost my selfie camera.
Well, that's not good.
Later on, I lost my front camera.
Oh, no.
I need a workaround, Leo, or is there a way to get back to Marshmallow 6.0 Android?
No, you don't, you don't want to go back because for security reasons. In fact, honestly, you'd rather be, the current version of Android is 9. You're still 2 years behind. So you'd like to go forward, not backward. The breaking of the camera, unless there was something with that Zenfone, and you could Google this, that particularly had a problem with Android 7, something, a known bug or something like that, much more likely just the upgrade didn't go well. Remember, when you're installing a new operating system, even if it's just an upgrade, doesn't seem like a big deal. I always liken it to, remember the gag people used to do? You'd get a table with china and glassware and silverware all set beautifully and a tablecloth underneath it, and the magician would come up and whoop, whisk the tablecloth out from under the glassware without a single, glass broken. Cool trick. Installing an operating system upgrade on a phone is like doing that and then putting the tablecloth back. Pretty hard not to break the glassware. And the fact is that we are upgrading operating systems in place all the time, mostly successfully, is a testament to the skills of the programmers. But every once in a while, maybe it's one time in 100, something goes wrong. In this case, clearly something went wrong. Your selfie cam should still work. That's something. It broke something. The best thing to do when an Android device acts like that is to do the factory reset on the device. I wouldn't try to go backwards in time. You can't very easily. I mean, you could, but as I said, that'd be a security problem. I would just reset the phone. It's probably time to do that. It's fairly old. The phone is 3 or 4 years old now. And it wasn't, the greatest phone ever to begin with. So now would be the time to go into the settings on your Android device. And it's in different spots depending on the manufacturer and what they've done with Android, but there is, in most Android phones, a backup and reset area of the settings. Or you could just search for reset. And what you want to do is you want to do a factory data reset. On my phone, it says, reset your phone to its factory default settings. Now, here's the key. This will erase all data, including files and downloaded apps. So if you don't have a backup, if there's something on there, a book, music, pictures that you don't have a copy of, make a copy. Easiest way with photos is get Google Photos on there, have it back up. It's an Asus phone. Asus may have a backup. Google certainly does. Make sure that's on, backing it up. That backup will back up settings. It'll back up a list of the apps you have installed, not the apps themselves, because you'll want to download fresh ones anyway. In most cases, resetting an Android device is a pretty straightforward process. You'll do this factory data reset. You'll log back into your Google account. If you have an Asus account for this phone, log into that. If you a Samsung phone, you'd log into that. In many cases, the manufacturers also have some backups. And let those restore. I bet you your selfie camera will work. I think almost certainly, and anytime you have a problem like this, it's a case of the tablecloth didn't go in quite so nicely. So maybe a glass got broken or two. Best thing to do, clear the table off, put a nice fresh tablecloth on there, Android 7, and reset the table. And that's what you're doing, basically, when you're doing a factory data reset. Now, there is one exception, which is it's possible that that device doesn't, has a known problem, which would be weird, especially if Asus hadn't fixed it. But if that device has a known problem with Android 7 and its cameras, hope that Asus fixes it. If they haven't, you can go backwards. It's tricky. It's hard. It's basically you require to root the phone and put on some software that allows you to put other firmware on there. My advice, if you want to learn how to do that, is to go to xda-developers.com. That's the XDA forum. Search for your exact model of phone. And there'll be a forum thread on that phone and how to root it and how to get firmware from different versions. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Welcome. I'm great. How are you? Where are you from?
Canada.
Nice. Alberta. Calgary. The home of the Stampede. And your name is? Dan. What brings you here?
Here for Google I/O.
Oh, fun. Are you a developer or?
I actually teach web development.
Nice.
So coming down for that.
And the school sent you down? How nice of them. You're going to get a new phone,
I'm hoping.
Yeah. 3A, maybe more, yeah.
Maybe a Google Home with a screen on.
Wouldn't that be nice? New Pixel book, Pixel watch. I came this close to buying a new Android Wear watch last week, and I went, what am I thinking?
I know, I'm on Galaxy
Wait.
7. I'm like, I'll just wait and see if I get a phone.
Yeah, so this is, I really like it. It's the Frontier, the S3 Frontier gear from Samsung, and actually I really like it. But I want to try the new Android Wear. And all of my old Android Wear watches are just too old, like the Moto 360 and stuff. Yeah. I wear the Apple Watch a lot. But this actually, I think it's a nice watch. And I actually really like the UI. And
Well, if Google does a Pixel version, it's going to be...
That'll be the one to get. Yeah, it'll have the new Snapdragon on it and all that stuff. So, yeah.
They're going to make sure it works.
Yeah. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888. Ask Leo. Huh. Let's go back to the phones, and it's Norm in Simi Valley, California. Hi, Norm.
Hey, Leo. How you doing?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I want to say thanks for all the great information. And
you're welcome.
The only critique of the show is it needs more cowbell.
Oh, I'm set. I got my cowbell right here.
Awesome. Hey, Joey says hi.
Who's Joey?
Yeah, your nephew.
Oh, you work with Joey?
No, I've known him for years.
Oh,
and
nice.
I told him I was going to call you.
Oh, nice. Well, give him my regards.
I will do so. So, hey, I'm a contractor, and I do some large area or large-scale assessments. And the best thing I can do to share that information with property managers and HOAs I work for is to geotag photos so they can take a look over a map. I used to use Picasa, but that's not available.
Yeah, boy, I'm mad at Google. I am really mad at Google. They bought Picasa, which was a paid program. They started giving it away. That's nice. And then they killed it. And they did not offer any reasonable replacement at all.
So what?
You want some sort of program? You take your pictures. Of course, if you're taking the pictures with a camera that has GPS built in, and most point and shoots do, a lot of cameras do. Certainly, your camera phone.
I use my phone.
Yeah. So that's got attached to the picture. It's got what we call EXIF, EXIF, extended information that says the coordinates, GPS coordinates. And what Picasa used to do, you'd import it with Picasa, be on your hard drive in different folders with dates and stuff. But it would also make a map, and it would put a pin on the map where all those photos were. That was a very nice feature.
I loved it.
And you want to do that still?
Somewhere I can't find any information on how to do that again with any other program. I don't know if you have any better information than Google.
I'm racking my brain. I've seen this many times. I feel like Flickr might do that. If you there are sites that you can go to. Now, do you use Google Photos, which is what Google says is the replacement for Picasa? Do you use that? Do you have that on your phone?
I don't.
Okay. So, that might be the solution for you.
Google Photos.
Google Photos, because Google, it's my memory that if you've got stuff in Google Photos, you can show the locations of those photos on a map. Let me just, let me just try this, because I upload everything to Google Photos. To me, it's almost my backup, right? You put Google Photos on an iPhone or Android phone, and you say, upload every picture that I take, and then that becomes the backup. So let me see if I can...
Yeah, I'm just tech savvy enough to be dangerous, and
me too.
I'm a little nervous about cloud storage yet.
Create a new Google My Maps. I don't know how you do that. Let's see. Google My Maps. Let me Google. This is getting like Inception. Google My Maps. So google.com/mymaps. Oh, I didn't even know about this. So here's the deal. Google.com/mymaps. You can take photos from photos.google.com and map them. And then you will have an online website with your maps.
And I can share that link?
You can share that link. So that is kind of, I guess that basically is Picasa. This is the problem. They took a program that did a bunch of stuff, and then they took it apart. They sold it off for scrap. But some of that scrap did make it back to Google, and My Maps did. There's also a Android Google My Maps app. I don't know if there is one for iOS, but you could also have that map on your phone and show it there too.
On Android as well. Okay.
Yeah. So let me see. I'm going to press. Let's see. Create new album, shared album, movie, animation, photo book. Seems like there should be an easy way just to take all these pictures. Let's select a bunch of pictures. I know they're all from Hawaii. And then I have to figure out how to get them onto My Maps. I haven't done this, so I'll leave that as an exercise for you.
I will try it.
But you can do it. And then let's keep the lines open. Everybody who has a solution, maybe there's other software that will do this. Feels to me like a lot of software will do this. But I like
a really basic thing available these days.
I like the idea of having it on the web, right? And shareable as a website. So let me see. I'm going to go to Google My Maps, create a new map. Okay. It's add a layer. And then can I add photos to that layer? Import. Yeah, I guess I can. I can import photos into that layer. Yeah, there you go. Photo albums from Google Photos. So there, I'm going to import an album into that. Okay. Select that album. And now I have a map of Hawaii with pins where all the pictures I took are. Oh, that's cool. I just did it. Start at google.com/mymaps and create a new map and then import from Google Photos. Now, you don't have your photos in Google Photos yet, but the good news is that's easy to do. They're on your phone now, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So what you want to do is put the Photos app on there. It's free, and it has free unlimited storage, by the way. And then go into the settings of that. Make sure it's backing up to Google. It'll take a little while. On iPhones, you have to keep the app open for it to back up. On Android phones, it does it in the background. But by this afternoon or this evening, most of those photos from the phone should be uploaded. It may not even take that long, depending if on your fast Wi-Fi or not. And then you'll be able to go to My Maps, and I guess what I would first do in Google Photos, make an album of that site that you want a map of, and then go to My Maps and make a map of it.
Sounds easy enough.
Yeah. Look at that.
Leo, thank you very much.
I solved the problem in real time, thanks to you.
In real time. I love it.
That's
Thank
why
you.
I love it too. Thank you, Norm. I appreciate the call. That's one of the reasons I like doing this show, because I learn every show. I'm going to have to play with that a little bit. Now, there are people who are going to say, well, okay, but I don't want Google to know everywhere I've been. Oh, they know anyway. Believe me, if you have Google Maps on your phone, it's keeping track of your location. The nice thing Apple does, at least with the iPhone, is periodically they'll say, hey, you know, Google Maps has been tracking your location even when it's not open. You want to keep doing that? So they at least give you a heads up to it. At some point, you probably gave it permission and said, you know, yeah, because to use Maps, you need to at least allow location information when Maps is open. The key is not allowing it when Maps is closed if you want privacy. I don't care. Google knows where I am. And it is kind of handy. By the way, we haven't talked about it yet, but Google's big developer conference starts on Tuesday. And it's expected that Google will announce a bunch of new stuff. We're not sure what. One thing I'm pretty sure they're going to do is announce a new, less expensive Pixel phone, the Pixel 3a. That's a very Googly name, isn't it? 3.1A2. Now, Google 3A, which will be a less expensive version of their sort of popular Pixel 3. Turns out Pixel 3 sales weren't all that good over the past year. But I think it's a great phone with a very nice camera. I certainly recommend it for Android lovers. Maybe they'll announce other things too, though, including, we think, perhaps a new Google Assistant device with a screen and a camera. And they call it the Home Hub, maybe a new Home Hub. Maybe even, I'm hoping, a new Android Wear watch. Google hasn't made one in a long time. There's still lots of companies like Fossil and even Tag Heuer, the very fancy watch company that make Android Wear watches. But Google for a while just kind of ignored Android Wear. Of late, they've added new features. They've started to polish it up a little bit, which makes the world think, maybe they're going to do a watch. I'll talk about it next week. There's also, on Monday, Microsoft's developer conference, Build, kicks off. And they're going to have a big keynote, and I imagine they're going to have announcements. So this will be a very busy week in tech. Last week was the week of quarterly results. That's, more interesting to the stock market than it is to tech users. This week going to be the developer week. And next weekend on the show, we'll talk a lot about it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls coming up right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah. 8888 Ask Leo. Last few minutes of the show, but as I said, we're going to have a big one next week. Lots to talk about from Google and Microsoft. John Paul, Carlsbad, California. Thanks for hanging on, John Paul.
Hey, thank you very much. Leo, you're the best.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your calling. What can I do for you?
I'm having a nightmare trying to recover my own Gmail account, and I've done everything they tell me, and there's no one to talk to. And it's crazy. Can you help me?
No. So, yeah, this is a problem. So first of all, I feel your pain because everything is in that Gmail account. So, and you'll have to forgive me because I'm going to use your story as an example of how in future to prevent this for everybody who's listening if they have Gmail accounts so they don't get in your situation. The problem is that was a free service, and it's almost as if there was a disclaimer somewhere saying, this is a free service. Don't count on any support or help if something goes wrong. Google's support, we often joke, is done by computer script, not by humans. There are humans, and if you, for instance, had G Suite, their paid commercial version of Gmail, there would be a support team to help you. But you're using the free Gmail, and so you're kind of going to have to rely on support documents from Google itself. Now, let's talk about what happens. You get into Gmail, you authenticate it, you use it with your email address and a password. There's a few things Google suggests, and people often ignore this, so pay attention. In fact, if you haven't done a Google security checkup on your Google account, do run that. One thing they'll suggest is turning on something they call two-step authentication. That means in addition to a password, when you use a new machine, you will have to authenticate with a second method the first time you use that new machine. So you set up a new computer, you'll go to your Google account, you give it your email address and your password, and it says, okay, now authenticate. And there are a number of different ways you can do this. The easiest is to have a program called Google Authenticator on your phone. You open up the Gmail tab in the Google Authenticator, and it gives you a 6-digit number. You enter that in, and Google says, good. You've done the 2 steps. Now we know it's you. So very important, if you use Gmail, if you use Google accounts, set up 2-factor. It's a little bit less convenient because every time you use a new device, a new phone, a new computer, a new program, you might have to do that 2-factor. But believe me, it's a lot better than losing your account. You can even, if you want to be more secure, I use 2-factor authentication with a physical device, a YubiKey that I put in the USB port, press a button. That means a bad guy to get my account would have to not only know my password and log in, but it would also have to have this physical key. And you can have a couple of them. I keep one at home locked up, and I keep one in my pocket. That's a nice way to protect it. You can have even Google send you a text message, although that is not a good idea. In general, that gives bad guys one more way they could try to get into your account. It's not as secure as Authenticator or a key. The other thing Google suggests you do, and I strongly suggest you do this, and this would have solved your problem, John Paul. Google says, set up a second email address for recovery purposes. Not a Gmail address, but maybe almost everybody has other email addresses. If you get onto Gmail using your ISP's account, you probably have email with your ISP, Comcast, Cox, Spectrum. You could use that. They also suggest you give them a phone number. It could be a landline or a cell phone. That's one more way to recover. Now, if you lose your account, if somebody gets in and the password's changed, or you forget the password, or maybe you forget your authenticator, you can still say to Google, I want to recover my account. Send a recovery email to my secondary address, or call that number I gave you and recover it. I suspect your problem, John Paul, is that you hadn't set those up, and now it's a little harder. Google's going to be very careful about giving you your account back. They don't want to give your keys to your kingdom to some stranger. They need you to prove you are you. And without this recovery email account or this recovery phone number, that's pretty darn hard. They're going to ask you questions like, well, when did you create your Gmail account? What was the first email you sent? A lot of stuff I wouldn't remember. I created my Gmail account 12, 13 years ago. I don't know. I don't know that. If I could log into my Gmail, I'd know that. But remember, the burden is on them to not give your account away to some stranger. So they're going to really make it hard to recover that account if you haven't given them an easier way, like a phone number or an email. So we had a woman a few months ago, lived in Irvine. She said, I went to the Google offices in Irvine. I knocked on the door. Nobody answered. Yeah, Google can't, honestly, they're giving it away. They can't really afford to provide support for something like that. If you're going to use Gmail, a free service, the burden is on you to do the things Google tells you, and they make it easy to do, to recover your account should something go wrong. I know nobody assumes anything's going to go wrong, but it does. They do. And the problem is I can't intercede. I can't call them up and say, hey, this is Leo Laporte, the tech guy. You know me? No. Well, I want John Paul's Gmail account back. Well, no. Even if I could get somebody, they wouldn't. I couldn't do anything for you. There's no magic. You have to follow. Now, there is a recovery process. You have to follow that, do the best you can, and hope you can give them the answers they need. Otherwise, that account may be gone. Sad to say. One more call, Marie in Massachusetts. Hello, Marie.
Hi, Leo.
Welcome.
I got a simple little question, I think. My husband's cell phone, the keyboard, has an upside-down question mark, and we don't know why it's there.
It's probably the Spanish keyboard.
Well, why would that be on an English phone?
Go look in the settings. Under the keyboards, you can set your region. Do you have an upside-down exclamation mark as well?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, make sure you're set for English, your region. Certainly in Spanish, there's an upside down question mark as well as an upside down exclamation mark, and that might be why that's on your keyboard. I can't think any other reason.
I'll get on that then. Thank you very much.
Ole! Riba!
Cinco de Mayo.
I have it says Cinco de Mayo. Your phone knows it's Cinco de Mayo. It's celebrating.
That's right.
I have a puckish friend with a puckish sense of humor. Some might even call him evil. And every time I saw him, he'd say, "Hey, Leo, give me your phone." I say, "What?" He said, "I just want to see it. Unlock it for me. I just want to see it. I want to look at it. Then you got the new Samsung. Let me look at it." And then he would, without my knowledge, change the language to Russian or Arabic. Something you can't even, at least if it's French, I could kind of look at it and go, I think I need to do this. But if it's a non-Roman language, you know who I'm talking about, John. You know who I'm saying. Keep your hands off my phone. Hey, thanks so much to Michael Cozio filling in for Big Pee-wee as our musical director this week. That was a lot of fun, Michael. All I could say is, I need more cowbell. Thanks to Kim Schaffer, our phone angel, for answering the calls. Most importantly, I owe you a debt of gratitude. Couldn't do this without you. Over the last 27 years, it's been your calls that have taught me, that have enlivened me, that have given me a reason to come in on the weekend. So thank you. I love doing this show. We're going to have a big week next week as we talk about Google I/O, Microsoft's Build, maybe some new products from Google. I don't know. Could be. But I hope you'll join me each and every weekend for the Tech Guy Show. They're saying my cowbell sounds just like bolts. No. It's a cow. That's a cowbell. TechGuyLabs.com, the website. If you have any questions or you want to make any comments, it's free and open all week. We'll see you next time. I'm Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.